Welcome to the World Builders Anvil, episode 133. Learn how to gain as much as 12 hours in a week in only 15 minutes. Don't know where to start building your fantasy world? Do you need more? Does it make sense? Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination. This is the place that will help prime your mind. Now, it's time to heat up the forge, break out the mithril ingots and hammer. Welcome to the World Builders Anvil. I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram. Let's sup from the mug of Java and build. Welcome back. As always, I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Kristin Ingram.
Wow, where's Michael? I think he might be getting a pedicure and a manicure this week. I can't be sure. Actually, no, it's not fair to really say that. Michael was essentially blocked from the town from visiting my house this week due to some sort of town legalese thing. It's not too important to get into the specifics, but he couldn't arrive here this week. So I had
Okay.
So I had a topic to one of the NaNoWriMo topics I wanted to get more into was time, and I wasn't planning to do it this week, but I figured this is a good of time as any.
Yeah, I think this is a really important thing to do all the time, but especially with NaNoWriMo coming up, I think that this is really important.
Yeah, because like I said in the first NaNoWriMo episode I did, prep episode, which if you didn't listen to, you should go back to episode 132 right now and listen to that one, and then listen to this one, is the thing I found is a lot of people are really surprised when they're like, oh, wow, you've written a novel in a month. And to me, the writing the novel in the month was much easier. It's sort of the prep work that's difficult. And in that, the basis of everything, even more important than getting buy-in from yourself and from your loved ones, is time. Because until you know that you have the time to do it, the rest of it, you're just going through motions.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much time we let slip through our hands when we're not intentional about it.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really good exercise to do.
Yeah. So essentially what we're going to do with this episode is we want to talk a bit about time management, because there are lots of wonderful tools out there that I spend way too much time reading about. Master schedules, calendars, next items to get you to your goal. Bunch of wonderful tools, but there seems to be something fundamentally missing in time budgeting.
And that's doing the budget?
That's doing the actual budget part, because the thing people get stuck in is, well, how much time do I allocate for this or for that? Those are always somewhat guesses. The more experienced you are, the better you can get at guessing them. But ultimately, the thing is, how much time do I have to work with? I can't generate more time.
Well, I think, people are not intentional with their time.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard of Dave Ramsey, he's a budgeting guy for money. And he says that you should spend all of your income on paper before you spend it.
Yeah.
And so we kind of took that approach and we said, well, why don't we do that with time?
Yeah. Because the one thing is, like with money, I can maybe work more hours. I can get better skills, apply for higher paying jobs, and improve the income I earn over time. But ultimately, we only have so much time.
Right.
And hopefully it's long and prosperous.
We can tell that you just saw Star Trek this weekend. Live long and prosper.
I live long and I prosper, hopefully. But yeah, so really when it came down to it, it's like, what if time is really the most important resource we have, which it is, in my opinion, why don't we budget it? And because I don't know how many of you have ever run into this where you're like, oh, thank goodness, I have a holiday weekend coming up here. I can sit around and I can fart around and get more done than usual. So I'm going to come home and on my Friday or Monday off from work, due to the holiday, I'm going to play the bejesus out of Fallout 4. I'm going to have cats jumping up and down on my head because they're excited to see me on a day they don't normally see me. Right, producer? Yes. The producer is very happy right now. And then I'm going to sit there and go, well, it's now Saturday. I'm going to, I'm feeling a little tired. allergies are bothering me. I'm going to get started later than I like to. And then I'm going to stop working as soon. And before I get around to it, I've not gained any time at all. I've just squandered an entire day's worth of time, which I should have had to do writing, to work on the podcast, to do many of the things that I love to do. But it's easy to squander it. It's easy to watch that time just flitter away.
Yeah, and we've seen that happen quite a bit in our household. And that's why we're getting much more intentional about our time.
Yes. And it's funny how much more we've gotten done doing this.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we've gotten more done this last week, even with all of the stuff that comes up and slows us down than we normally do.
So where do we start?
Okay. Well, I think we should probably start on a normal, let's just do a time budget.
Okay.
And what we'll do is, and I believe this for NaNoWriMo, you need 2 time budgets. You need a time budget going into NaNoWriMo, like what's your normal time budget, and then we'll talk about the changes to make when you get into NaNoWriMo. Okay.
So what is the most important thing that you should put in your time budget?
Fallout 4?
No.
No?
No.
Oh, feeding the kitties.
No. Sleep.
Well, there's time for that tomorrow, right?
No, sleep.
Oh, okay.
Because see, here's the thing. So if you don't recharge your batteries, this is where you lose a lot of your effectiveness during the day. If you're not getting enough sleep, then when you get home from work, you're not going to have the energy to be able to write. Or when you get that day off, you're going to want to sleep really late. And then you're like, oh, it's already late morning. You eat something. You're still feeling kind of groggy because you've gotten too much sleep in one period of time and you lose more time. So sleep is critical. The other thing with sleep too is that they've actually done studies that say that once you've done the damage to your brain from lack of sleep, your brain won't recover from that.
Yeah. And also, and I believe it might have been part of the same study, or we learned about it at the same time we were doing research on sleep. When you do make choices about giving up sleep, like she said, not only can you not make it back, but you're probably also lying to yourself. Most people need 8 hours. I don't believe I always did. I do now, most definitely. Maybe when I was younger, I didn't. Or maybe that's when I did all the damage to my brain, one of the two. I'm not positive, but most people really need 8 hours of sleep. So you should be budgeting 8 hours of eyes closed time.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like you've also got to budget some time to like wind down. So part of the downtime that I schedule is actually preparing to sleep. So, I think the thing that we have to start with is we have to start with the fact that we all have 168 hours a week.
Yes.
And so this is what we're budgeting, is that 168 hours.
You start off on the same playing field of time as everyone else. Every CEO, every president has 168 hours per week. And so do you.
So I'm going to put you down. Let's see. So 8 hours a night times 7 days a week. That's 56 hours for sleep.
Good God.
I know it seems like a lot, right? That's a third of your budget, but if you don't take that time, your brain's not going to recharge.
All right.
So doing some mathing here, that leaves you with 112 hours in the week.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about work. What does your work schedule look like?
I work 4 10-hour days.
Okay. So work is 40 hours per week.
Well, kind of.
We'll say 40 hours per week.
And that's actual working time. That does not include lunch, which is about a half hour a day.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about time for eating and things like that. Okay. So now you've got 72 hours left.
Well, I have to get to work.
Okay. So that's your commute. And how long's your commute every day?
This is tricky because of where I live. But I would say on average, let's just say 30 minutes.
Okay. So that's an hour a day, 4 days a week. That's one nice thing about you working 4 days a week is that you only have to commute 4 days a week. So that's only 4 hours a week.
Oh. Yeah, that's true. I guess I do save a day there.
Yeah, so you save yourself an hour a week by doing that. So if you have the opportunity to work from home, during the week, or if you can modify your schedule so that you can do 40 and 4, that's a really good way to help you gain a little bit of time.
Okay.
All right, so we're at 68 left.
Excellent. Well,
Okay.
that's it.
No. How long does it take you to get ready in the morning?
I get up at 5 and I leave at 6, so hour and a half.
Okay. So an hour and a half times. It doesn't really take you that long to get ready on the weekends, though, does it?
Nope.
Okay. So.
But part of that is just my brain waking up a little bit. I wake up a little bit later in the weekend, so that's not so much an issue. But
well, let's budget that for every day of the week, right? We'll give you some padding. So we'll do 7 days of the week. So let's wake up and get ready. That's 10.5 hours per week.
Okay.
Okay. So you have 57.5 hours left.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess there's time to go to bed. That probably takes about an hour.
So we'll give you some downtime. And let's say that you've got 2 hours a day for downtime. So those are things like, watching TV, getting ready for bed. So we'll do 14 hours for the week. So that's basically you get 2 hours a day for downtime.
Okay.
So that's some fallout time. You can kind of budget that however you want. And it's funny because I think a lot of people, when I go through this exercise with them, they're like, wow, I can have 2 hours of downtime every day. Yes. And that's not eating time. This is downtime. This is, time for you could read during this time. You could play a video game during this time. This is your downtime.
Okay.
Okay. So if we subtract that out.
With the only caveat that you probably don't want to play a video game up until the point you go to sleep.
Yeah, that's not a good idea because then your brain's not going to shut down. Okay, so at 43.5.
Okay.
Okay. How about some family time?
I see you every day.
Quality family time.
Quality family time. Well, we usually eat dinner together. Not every day because of your work schedule, but so there's 1, 2, 3. So 5 days a week we eat together. Well, let's say 4 because one's date night.
Mm-hmm.
So date night is pretty much is like 6 o'clock on Fridays. So and then probably 4 other hours on top of that.
Okay. So we'll say 10 hours per week. So that brings us down to 33.5. Okay. Let's put in some time for chores.
Good God.
Yes, chores.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, huh? Yeah, no, that's not going to really work.
Probably an hour a day.
Yeah, so let's just round it up to 10.
Okay. Yeah,
okay. So that way, like when we have to do like errands and stuff that. And like some of this stuff is going to overlap because, sometimes on date night, we might stop at Target on the way home and pick up some things that we need or.
I believe it's not too important to worry about the overlap time though, just because when the time overlaps and you gain some time here, something else is going to take longer than expected. So.
Okay. And so you are at 23 and a half hours left.
Yes. And now there's one thing I have to do every week, or really 2 things, podcasting.
Okay.
And I'm splitting this apart from the other time I spend on the web specifically because this really is our main avenue of outreaching and talking to people. So I would say probably 8 hours a week.
Okay. All right. So your podcast is 8 hours a week.
And just for all of those listening out there, this includes the prepping for it, the creation of it, the editing for it, and the articles for it, and everything around the podcast. Or the 2, because there's this one in Small Biz Life that I do with my wife.
Okay. So I think that this pretty much covers everything at this point, right? So, because I know like your wake up time, that includes eating breakfast. Mm-hmm. You've got downtime, family time and eating, chores, so I think that we've got everything in here. And I've got that you've got 15 and a half hours a week left.
No, I don't. I have like 2. Pretty sure.
But it kind of makes you think about where that time
where the time goes. And that goes back to I lost the whole weekend this weekend. And one of the things I find is why I like the time budget is I can help hold myself a bit more accountable if I can't get. Now, all 15.5 hours might not go towards my hustle, but a lot of it does at this point because I want more time to hustle. So I have to spend time to get time at this point. So, but I can hold myself accountable. And when I do stuff like create a master schedule, I know I have 15.5 hours I need to spend on that schedule to deal with other things.
So you figure that's a little over 2 hours a day that you have. So if we are thinking about NaNoWriMo, if you take a little over 2 hours a day and multiply that by the 30 days you have in November, that is almost 66 and a half hours that you have to write your 50,000 words.
Plus, I get another bonus for NaNoWriMo. I do not do a podcast episode for World Builders Anvil Thanksgiving week.
Okay, so that'll.
But then again, I also have Thanksgiving in that week, so that's going to lose time. So maybe the hours are about the same anyway. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably true. So if I take for you 50,000 words for NaNoWriMo divided by the 66 plus hours that you have, that means you're looking at writing 753 words per hour.
Yeah. That's not hard.
No. I mean, if I'm like really centered and focused, I can probably do up to 1,200 words an hour.
Now, remember too, that NaNoWriMo writing, now, if you go back to episode 132, when I talk about writing for quantity over quality, the idea is you don't self-edit as you go along. You don't overstress the color of the dress. You don't overstress the descriptive words of every scene. You're trying to get the story out as fast as possible. The idea is to create one long story that you're going to have to obviously go back through and edit again. You know, I'm a believer in the 5-draft methodology for writing novels, even though my first novel will go well beyond 5 drafts. But that's because I didn't start off with that mentality. And so keep that in mind, that this is a first draft. This is to get the story out. This is not to get overly stressed about the specific dialogue that goes on. You need the flavor of the dialogue. You need to make sure the dialogue is represented the best you can, but get through the dialogue, write the actual story.
Yeah, and don't worry a lot about the punctuation and the formatting. And this is really memory dump writing.
Or
this is getting the story out.
As I like to call it, puking out the story. Just puke it out. It'll work fine.
One thing that you can do to kind of recover some of your time is if you're planning to write that night when you get home, use the time during your lunch hour to kind of sketch out where the story is going to go next and the part that you're going to be writing. Because then when you get home and you know, if you have dinner or whatever you're going to do, then you can actually focus on the story rather than where you're going to go next because you've already mapped that out.
Yeah. We'll be going over outlining it in another episode. But the thing is, once you sort of have in place this time budget, where I know that, especially for NaNoWriMo, I have, how much time do I have?
15 and a half hours a week.
I have 15.5 hours a week to write in. That's, some of you are saying that that's not nearly enough. I can't write 752 words a minute, 753 words a minute.
An hour.
Well, obviously an hour would be easier, but still 752 words a minute is even more difficult. But the thing you have to keep in mind is this is one of the few times where, you know, it's like when you're coming up to a project deadline at work, sometimes your schedule has to modify it. There's certain areas that you can modify it, especially when it's on a limited basis. Obviously, sleep you can't do, but maybe you're working more while you eat. And maybe your family knows this is going to happen. You're still going to spend time with them an evening, but the dinner portion might be at the keyboard, or you might the more intelligent thing would be to be sketching out what you need to do for your next chapter. And if you have a good outline, it's really refreshing the outline into your mind that you need to do. But dual utilizing some of the time like that. Take notes when you commute. I have 30 minutes of commuting time. I can listen to the radio, or I can take notes of what I want to do, audioly just record them into my phone. There are ways to utilize those kinds of times too. Like normally right now I spend lunch time in the Small Biz Life community putting together or responding to people in our Facebook group. And since it's a very active Facebook group, you can spend a lot of time in there, but I try and limit my time that I'm doing that kind of stuff. And because Facebook will eat all your time up otherwise. So I try and do that during lunch when I'm at work. But, maybe I only spend 5 minutes. I just quickly go through, see if there's anything major. If not, I'm over working on my outline, prepping for my next chapter.
Well, and I think, we did an episode about this for the Small Biz Life podcast. It's really important to make sure that your family and your friends understand that you're going to be doing this. Mm-hmm. Because when I know that it's NaNoWriMo, I try to make sure that like a lot of the errands and stuff are done while you're at work. I try to make sure like dinner's ready when you get home. I try to do more around the house so that way we can free up more of your time to write. And so I think if you get, those important stakeholders in your life on board and just say, listen, this is only for a month.
Yeah.
But I really need this time. Can you help me?
If you're working on major projects around the house, which if you're a homeowner, there's always major projects that need to be done. Try and wrap up the ones you're working on before November starts. And just let them know that you'll be starting up again later, but for that month, there'll be no major projects going on. You're not painting rooms. You're not reworking floors. You're chasing around cats a little bit, but you have to do that.
Right. And just, when you get the people in your life on board with what you're doing, and if you have free income, think about what you can do to decrease, the chores that you have to do around the house. This is a great time to try out like a grocery delivery service or a grocery pickup service, something like Peapod or Walmart has a service now.
If you live in a place like New England where there's a huge foliage potential problem during the month, the one advantage of being a part-time writer is maybe you have extra income that you could square away to pay someone to clean up your yard for you, because we could spend 20 hours easy a season clean up leaves in our yard. And that's just getting started.
Yeah, I think that's pretty conservative. So that's why, the way that we look at it is we could pay somebody a couple $100 to clean up our leaves, but over the course of the fall, that'll probably save us 40 hours.
Now, one of the things I will be doing is giving away, I'm going to replace the current giveaway on World Builder's Anvil to give away the time budget. I'll create another drip to give out the old one, which I believe was the mind map for world building, or it might go away for a while. I'm not sure. But if you sign up for our newsletter right now, one of the benefits is Michael and I are actually working together on a lot of worksheets and ways to help you prep for NaNoWriMo. So along with this, there will be giveaways coming out that are time budgets like this week, or they are chapter outlines. And my chapter outlines are maybe a little differently than you've done them before. But to me, I like to have one spot I can go to for the information on my characters, for what I need to achieve in a chapter. You'll see it, but there'll be another episode on that. But that'll probably be closer to NaNoWriMo.
Yeah, so make sure that you go to garduel.com and sign up for the email list.
Yes, and you'll see it all over the place. It's hard to miss. Or I believe it's garduel.com/newsletter. It will be in the show notes for this episode, definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah. As we wind down this episode, I want to get to what is the world building task for the day. And as all of you know, I'm very inventive when I come up with my task for the day. I'm super creative, especially on this one. And this one is create your own time budget for NaNoWriMo. And it's also worked directly into the real world task, which is to create your actual time budget. And time budgets, unlike schedules and calendars, don't change much unless the amount of hours you work change. Maybe you lose like a half hour at lunch. If you go from an hour to 30 minutes because you change jobs, your commuting time might change a little bit. Once you get this done, there'll be very little work. Keep it close so you can look at it when you put your calendar together. But once you get done, there's not much more. And you should be able to get it done in under 15 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is to really think about what are your responsibilities every week? What are the things that you're contributing to your household, to, your job, and then really try to figure out how much time you have left that you can write.
And then work with your loved ones to sit there and figure out of your normal time budget, what are some things that could be sacrificed for just a month? And these will come at a cost. And the cost might be, well, maybe they have something that they really want to do the same way in a different month. So you're supporting them in the opposite way. Maybe you're both writers and you both want to write for the month. Maybe you have to save up some cash starting today. That's why we're talking about this far out from NaNoWriMo, so you can actually get ready. Because maybe part of it is just getting together enough cash so you can do more takeout, or maybe prep meals early in October so you can just sort of pull stuff out and reheat it for November. You're trying to look for ways between now and October 31st to compress the times for dinner, specifically your family time. I don't like to sacrifice, so I would advise that. You can't really affect your sleep. You should do 8 hours because especially you can write tired, but sooner or later it catches up with you. But chores wise, maybe you can get that down to 7 hours a week. Trim off just a few hours there. Every hour you gain, you put more time into the thing. And then when you have your blocks of time, especially your big blocks, which for me come on Friday and Saturday normally, really Friday, because Saturday is kind of eaten up in the morning. I do some recording on Saturday morning, and then I actually I mentor a kid as well. So my Saturday until about 3 o'clock is actually kind of eaten up. So Friday is really my big day for getting stuff done. When I hit Friday and I get done with my morning routine, I have to be on to writing. My real goal for NaNoWriMo is typically 20,000 words every week. I don't care what I need with the bare minimum number. If I can get 20,000, that's a goal of 80,000 words in a month. And that was probably really hard for me to achieve. But you know what? When I fall short, getting to 50 isn't so hard.
Right. Exactly.
I have a lot of faith in my community. I know a lot of people do writing right now. You love storytelling. Maybe you've never written a story before and you don't think it'll even be any good. There's nothing requiring that, you sell this afterwards, but you know what? Maybe it turns out to several good modules that you play with, that you create for your friends and you play with across the table. Maybe you know an indie game developer and you're like, you know what? I have a story now. Let's make a game out of this. There are lots of things that you can do with the material. Once you've written material, it can be used for anything. And writing is at the core of all media.
Right. And I think, because I've done this a couple times before. A couple years ago, I did it to actually write content from one of my websites. So it's just a really good exercise that you're sprinting along with all these other people to do something to hit a goal. So maybe you're writing that game that you always wanted to write. You're writing a novel. You're writing content for your gaming group. It doesn't have to be a novel. That's really what NaNoWriMo is all about. But it's an opportunity for you to start getting your idea, whatever that is, down on paper. Yeah.
Because no matter what you do, whether it's a story orally, whether it's video, game, book, obviously, writing is at the core of everything for humans. It's what embeds into our mind and it reminds us of what we need to do. So writing is essential. Take advantage of NaNoWriMo to just get some words out there that you can then end up utilizing it however you want to. If you're on the fiction side of things, I say stick to writing a novel, even though it might not be the perfect form and you maybe never want to actually distribute it as a novel, or maybe you end up going, you know what, this is really good. Let me find out what it takes to turn it into a novel. But you know what? That's a discussion for December, not for now.
Right.
So get out there and get ready. This is the time to get ready. It's all about planning. All NaNoWriMo is. It's about preparing ahead of time. And as always, make sure to go to gardul.com. That's GARDUL.com for the show notes. It'll be under Podcasting, World Builder's Anvil. That's a great place to get all of the information from the episode that you've just listened to and to see all the resources that we've talked about in this episode. Thanks for joining us in this episode of the World Builder's Anvil. Please be sure to rate and review us in iTunes, and please help get the word out to your friends about our show. And join me, Jeffrey W. Ingram at Gardul.com, to see the progress of my world and learn why I made the choices I did. And please contact me and let me know the topics you would love to hear in the future. Now strike while the myth rolls high.